He was looking for the last untouched stretch of jungle on the whole Osa Peninsula. 3 days deep, no trail, no cell signal, nothing but green in every direction. What he found instead was a 71-year-old man living completely alone, growing his own food, building his own home with his own 2 hands. By the time the fire burned low that night, the explorer learned something he never expected. This quiet old man, hidden away in the middle of a rainforest, used to run a $400 million company back in Ohio. Nathan Cole made documentaries about disappearing places. Rainforests, reefs, the kind of wild land that keeps shrinking every year. The rumor that brought him to Costa Rica was simple enough. Locals talked about an American living alone deep in the jungle, going on 15 years now. No road in, no name anyone seemed to know for sure. 3 days into the hike, his guide stopped and pointed, not at wildlife, at rows. Straight, deliberate rows of fruit trees, grafted branches, a narrow irrigation channel cut by hand through the red dirt. The jungle doesn't grow in rows. Something else does. They followed it into a clearing, a small wooden cabin, a solar panel angled toward the sky, chickens scratching in the dirt, and in the doorway, machete held low at his side, not raised, just habit, stood a lean, sun-weathered old man with sharp eyes and a white beard. "You're not from the ministry," he said. "Not a question." Nathan explained himself. "Filmmaker. No cameras rolling, just curious." The old man studied him a long moment, long enough that Nathan braced to be told to leave. Instead, the man lowered the machete. "Trail's dangerous after dark. You'll want to stay the night." His name was Walter. Inside, Nathan noticed things. A laminated employee badge, faded and curling, nailed above the doorframe. Some Ohio company's name beneath a photo of a much younger man in a suit. On a shelf near the window, a Rolex, dust settled deep into the band, sitting between 2 mason jars of seeds. Walter noticed him noticing. "You worked in an office," he said. Nathan nodded. "I used to run one. 400 people answered to me, once." That night, by a small fire, Walter told him everything. I think it's better if I let him tell it the way he told it. I was 24 when I started at Lakeshore Industrial. Entry-level accountant. Gray cubicle. Fluorescent lights that never turned off. I was hungry. I wanted my name on a door somewhere. Took me 28 years, but I got there. Chief financial officer. Corner office on the 9th floor, windows facing the lake. A house in Shaker Heights. A country club membership I barely had time to use. I told myself I was doing it for my family. For Linda. For Emily. Somewhere along the way, doing it for them turned into just doing it. There was always a bigger number waiting past the one I'd just hit. I miss things. Recitals. Birthdays. Linda used to save me a plate and wrap it for the microwave. One day I still think about more than any other. Emily's graduation. Case Western, springtime. 3rd row, my good suit, when my phone buzzed. A client in Singapore, mid-negotiation on a deal that had dragged for months. I stepped into the hallway to take it. I told myself the deal couldn't wait. I actually believed that. I came back in for the last 10 minutes. Somewhere I still have a photo of Emily crossing that stage. I wasn't watching it with my own eyes. I was watching it through my phone screen, recording it because I'd missed the rest of it live. The heart attack found me at 58, middle of another negotiation, if you can believe it. Mid-sentence. The paramedics had to pry the phone out of my hand. I woke up smelling, rubbing alcohol, wired to more machines than I'd ever seen. My first real thought was whether the account I'd been closing had gone through. Linda came to see me, sat in the chair by the bed. She didn't raise her voice. I almost wish she had. She just held my hand and told me she was done. She said, "You haven't been in this marriage in years, Walter. You've just been paying the bills for it." I looked at the tray table by the bed. My phone was sitting there, face up. 2 full days in that hospital. It hadn't rung once. Not the office. Not one person out of the 400 who worked under me. That's when it landed on me. I'd spent 30 years building a life that ran perfectly fine without me in it. I sold the house within the year. Sold my stake back to the board. Gave Linda more than the lawyer said I had to. By then, the number didn't matter to me anymore. First time in 30 years that was true. Emily didn't take my calls for a long while. I don't blame her. I hadn't been around enough to earn the right to just show back up. I bought a one-way ticket to Costa Rica. No real plan past that. Some part of me needed to get far enough away that I couldn't find my way back, even on a day I panicked and wanted to. I wish I could tell you I took to it right away. I didn't. I nearly starved the first year. Built a roof that came apart in the first real storm. These hands, he held them up to the firelight. Used to sign off on 8-figure deals. That first year, they blistered, just digging one well. The jungle didn't care who I used to be. 40 years of being somebody, and it looked at me like I was nobody at all. There was an old farmer a couple miles down. Chico. Found me half-starved, planting seeds into soil that wasn't ready for them. Didn't say much those first visits, just kept showing up. Taught me to graft a mango branch, to read the clouds before a storm rolled off the coast, to actually listen to land instead of standing on top of it. About a year in, I asked him when the trees I'd planted were finally going to feed me. I remember exactly what he said back. Wrong question, Walter. Some trees you plant for your grandchildren. That's not wasted time. That's the only time that matters. I didn't have an answer for him. Some days, I still don't. Years pass the way they do once you stop watching the clock for them. Chico grew older. Walter grew steadier. The cleared dirt between their two plots slowly turned into something that belonged there. Rows of cacao, coffee, citrus, and hardwood saplings that wouldn't be worth $1 to anyone for another 20 years. Chico died quietly in his sleep, the way you hope a good life ends. Walter buried him at the edge of his own land, beneath one of the first trees they'd planted together. Then Walter did something that told you everything about who he'd become out there. He kept both plots alive. Chico's rows and his own. Nobody was checking. No shareholder meeting waiting on results. The land had been Chico's, and Chico had mattered. That was reason enough. If you'd shaken Walter Kessler's hand back in Cleveland, it would have been soft, smooth, built for signing things. The hand Nathan shook that first afternoon was rough, scarred across 3 knuckles, nails stained with soil the way they used to be stained with ink from initialing contracts a whole life ago. Nathan let the fire burn down before he finally asked the question he'd been sitting on all night. Do you miss them? Linda? Emily? Walter didn't answer right away. He looked into the fire the way people do when a question reaches somewhere they don't visit often. Every single day, he said finally. And I don't regret 1 year I've spent out here. Both of those are true at once. It took me a long while to stop needing them not to be. He stood, walked into the cabin, and came back holding a small tin box. Inside was a folded envelope, worn soft at the creases, picked up and set back down more times than he'd admit to. This came about a year ago, he said, from Emily. Nathan asked if he'd read it. Walter shook his head. I know what's inside. She's either still angry or she's not. Tonight, I get to hold both of those at once. The second I open it, I only get to hold one. He tucked the letter back beside a handful of dried seeds he was saving for next season and set the tin box on the windowsill. Nathan didn't push him. Some doors, a man opens on his own time, if he ever does at all. I think about Walter's story a little differently than most of the ones I bring you. Most stories end somewhere clean. A door closes. A wrong gets made right. Somebody walks into the sunset holding an answer. Walter doesn't have one. Not for Emily. Maybe not fully for himself, some nights. But he has an orchard, rows of hardwood trees he planted last season that won't reach full height for another 40 years. He knows he'll likely never stand in their shade. He plants them anyway. That's the real difference between the life he had and the life he built. One was measured by everything he could hold on to. The other is measured by what he's willing to grow, knowing he might never see it finished. Maybe that letter gets opened someday. Maybe it doesn't. Either way, Walter stopped needing the world to tell him his life added up to something. He decided that for himself. One tree at a time. So before you go, what are you planting right now that you might never live to see grow? Tell me down in the comments. I read every one. If you want more stories like this, hit subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.